I know you've been asked this a few times, but what was your initial reaction to the decision, the announcement yesterday of a move towards a Royal Commission for Veteran Suicide?
Well, g'day Peter, and good to talk with you. And it's been a long time coming. I've joined this conversation very late to the game, but this has been years and years of campaigning. And it's fantastic to hear the Prime Minister finally listen to the Parliament, who all voted unanimously on this. And now we can actually start to get the process done. And it's going to be a long road.
Going to be harrowing, isn't it, what comes out of it?
Yeah, well, that has to be. And these conversations need to get more, are not going to get easier, but they need to get more frequent. We need to get it all out on the table, because only once we go back and dig up these issues and the anger, resentment and emotion that has accompanied them for decades, only then can we actually start to properly work through these and commence also the healing process for so many veterans that this has affected over generations.
What are the systemic problems, Heston?
Which we transition our veterans from a life in service to a life out of service. And it is a life, it's not a job. I myself have trodden that path very unsuccessfully over the last 2 years, whereby I deployed 4 times to Afghanistan, once to Iraq, and everything else in between in what was the best version of me in my military life, only to then have the Department of Defence remove its responsibility and support from me and then be passed over to the Department of Veterans Affairs. That is simply a bureaucratic red tape process that, unfortunately, and in hindsight, after going through my own struggles with mental health, results in the service person feeling devalued, losing that sense of purpose, that sense of identity, and even that community, and goes through basically a liability and compensation process as opposed to any form of care and support. And there's a lot more that goes into it. There is also other different segments of a veteran's life. There are those that have critical needs, like our PTSD, veterans suffering from PTSD. But at the systemic level, when we go back and we read reports like the Jesse Bird Coroner Report, the Productivity Commission report, and see recommendations that have been sitting there for years without action, that's when it's been time to call this Royal Commission and ensure accountability is placed and the lessons learnt are learnt once and not again for our future generation.
So do you feel like you just, in explaining that transition to people who aren't across it, you kind of feel like you just get dropped off?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've done a fair bit of work with the Australian Institute of Sport and even linking with the NRL, and their player and athlete programs maintain responsibility for their people when they leave. And they have a fantastic processes and systems where they feed back into and support and mentor those players and have that investment within that community and that identity. When a defence personnel leaves, they leave the Department of Defence and they are handed over to the Department of Veterans Affairs. Sorry, they are not handed over. They have to self-refer to the Department of Veterans Affairs, of which only 1 in 4 veteran is doing. There is currently no handover of any form of medical documents or anything else in between, and it is treated like a bad customer service team whereby they only act on things if you reach out and ask for it and are even very persistent in following up. And we're talking about wait times for 18 months to see some medical claims like I had to do to get my knee fixed and all these other things. And time and space combined with uncertainty lead to mental health issues. And anyone who's watching this who has experienced lockdown or the uncertainty of 2020 knows what I'm talking about. And this is happening all too common. And over that time and space, emotion and resentment builds. And that is when people start acting on that emotion and that resentment. And it is exactly that we need this Royal Commission to help people, one, invest in this process, to have that cathartic experience as well. But two, to ensure that we don't do this again.
Sure. Sorry to interrupt there, Heston. So I mean, you must feel, you know, you've risked your life for our country in fighting wars overseas, and you'd be pretty cheesed off. Do you regret your service because of that experience?
Peter, my service was the best version of me, and I would do that again tomorrow if my country asked me to. Not because of who my government is, but because of what my country is and who the people I fought alongside and who I fought alongside and the people that we supported. I don't expect anything from my service. I probably just would like to be able to partake in those services that are offered to help me do things like rehabilitate my knee, to help me help figure out how to write a resume, help me actually understand the skills, knowledge and attributes I have from my time in Defence Force and translate those into an actual job, as opposed to thinking all I'm good at is crisis and combat. I don't expect anything. I just want those who say that they have a responsibility to be held accountable. One of the core traits that I loved about my service life was that if you say you're going to do something, and then I get out and I watch giant organisations like the Department of Veterans Affairs with $11 to $15 billion in budget, and I can't even see people being held accountable to their jobs. So I see this as a fantastic opportunity to, again, embrace our veteran community, bring them on this journey, and help demonstrate, one, what the best we've been trained to do by our Defence Force, and two, help bring some accountability back to this picture in a society that we all know it's been waning a fair bit in recent years.
I mean, it's not going to be able to solve all veteran suicides, unfortunately. I mean, veterans have struggled with mental problems, many different types of mental problems, purely because of what they've seen in the field of battle. So you're not going to be able to stop all of it, are you?
No, absolutely. And the key thing here, Peter, is, we're not going to be able to solve suicide, but the statistic that accompanied the motion that passed through the Parliament and the Senate is that within service and Defence Force, the suicide rate of our veterans is less than half the community average. Veterans who have left the Defence Force, that more than doubles. 127% more likely for our women who are veterans to attempt or commit suicide, and 47% higher than the community average, so that's 97% higher than what they were within service for our male veterans. That's the issue. That's where we have something going wrong in that transition process. And those of us who have walked that path know that that is the case. It's time now to make sure that we put that into a pragmatic solution and start taking action.
Okay, and hopefully this is the beginning of it, and some good results may well come out of it too. Heston Russell, thanks for your time.